welcome. Thank you for reading. It's wonderful.
Plenty of room up front if you want to move up. I'm sorry we don't have amplification, but you can move up.
And can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to read a bunch of letters, not poems. And it's called a formal type of work. Reading Emmanuel Hocard's Area. Area in the forests of Manhattan. And when I do this, it means that I'm reading from this book or some of Emmanuel's other books. Dear Stacy, in the airport at the gate, very early for the flight leaving Philadelphia to come home to San Francisco, leaving Philly, where this is Stacy Dorst, if someone doesn't know. Leaving Philly, where I saw Jenna and Lainey, we spoke about you, missing you. I'm reading in Helensis Ex Cities, the introduction by Eric Prenowitz, where he gives a brief yet thorough account of her bio. I'm reflecting just now about the relationships between biography and fiction because of the anthology Lainey is editing about poets who write novels, poets who have also written a novel. Lainey has just written a novel herself. She's in New York this weekend for her book party. I'm writing, or will be writing, about Emmanuel Hocard's Area, A-E-R-E-A, imagining I need to think more about this palindrome, how it must parallel the text in terms of characters, narrative, setting, which proliferates and becomes characters. Grammar, A-E-R, air, Latin, air, atmosphere, ether, weather. It's also the title of a piece that Emmanuel wrote previous to this book's area. What, if anything, does this air have to do with area? Is it true that more literal means more abstract? Dear Stacy, I'm rereading the book as if in a dream, as though haunted by past readings, or rather feelings, at the same time as though never having read these words before, even though recognizing every sentence in its order. Surprised and not, I plucked from the pages of the book a photo I took of Emmanuel Hocard in my sunroom or living room when he came to visit in 1986 or 87. Not much in the room, a wicker armchair, a small table beyond it. I just moved into the house. Sitting in the wicker chair, he looks directly at the camera or at me, his right hand on his forehead, unsmiling, time frozen in space. Imagine reader Ulysses far away from his own people. Ulysses, not Odysseus, the Greek name, but Latin for the character from ancient Greek literature. Dear Stacy, remember how he's reading Lucretius? I mean, all the time? Emmanuel once asked me how that book, De Rerum Natura, was translated into English. I said, on the nature of things, he snorted and said something in French like, "You can't be serious." When I got home to SF, I Xeroxed the cover and sent it. That was, of course, before you could go online and just send the link. Emmanuel Hocard, who writes in poetry, in prose, or in between, thinks about the fiction of grammar or sonnet, doesn't need or use genre as his protocol, reads Wittgenstein, Resnikov, and Chandler as in Raymond, always trying to get closer to literality. Word equals thing, tautology. The word world is a collection of letters. There's a paragraph, a close-up, near the end of area, where Hocard communicates in detail the movement of the fishing line, the fish, the water, the air, the lava rock, a business concluded by death, where the literal transforms abruptly into metaphor, as Francis Ponch's Savon Surf, begun in 1932 but not completed until 1965. This pivotal word in literality, this is so, veers with his address to the French, to the Germans during World War II, when Germany has marched into France and taken over, becomes at once metaphor and synonym, and yet the sounds of the leaves is just the sound of the leaves. As the photo of the Lucas Prana painting of Eve tempted by the serpents on the covers of both French and American versions means all the words in the book. Night has fallen on the trees and on the great plains of the middle of the world. As I listened to the ice cubes clink in my glass, I admired the delicate nudity of my smooth body companion, Eve, by Ranaf the Younger. On the back cover of the POL 1985 edition, circa 1350, is given as the date for that painting, whereas on the back cover of the Lydia Davis translation, published in 1992 by the Marlborough Press, the dates for Lucas Prana are 1472 to 1553. Younger, older, the 1300s or 1500s, disparities abound. What is literal? Dear Stacy, I'm writing about Emmanuel Hocard, whom we both adore and love to think about whom we say to one another, and next time we're both in Paris, we'll make a plan, rent a car, drive south and west to the Pyrenees, find that farmhouse where he's living with Julia Valerie. I'm writing about Emmanuel Hocard and the novels and other things. Along with these musings, I'm also thinking about how early in my writing life, I knew writing a novel wouldn't work for me because I believed it would have to skate too close to reality, too familiar and familiar. And now, suddenly, coming up to Matt's edge, finding purpose in remembrance of things that had happened, sliding horizontally into the mental landscape like rocks on a platter. to be at the same time somewhere and nowhere. In his interview with Manríquez, Emmanuel Hocard speaks about how from the time of his editing and making with his own hands, i.e. typesetting, with Raquel, the Orange Export series from 1969 to 86, he did not see himself as part of a generation, or his writing and the writing of others as one genre or another, poetry, for instance, but as writing as an instrument, a tool for experimentation, to push against the rules of the game. No interest in boundaries, erasing the circumscription between prose and verse. Then area reads rhythmically, but lines up as normative prose in narrative or quasi-narrative little sections with tiny line drawings or icons between the sections, like the asterisk, but small tree, apple. No lines of verse, of broken theories. Dear Stacy, I'm sitting at a table in Cafe Fiore, where Samantha and Yetta just came in to have a belated birthday lunch for Yetta. All the May birthdays, hers, Michael's, yours, mine. When they came in, I was reading a piece by Ishagpour in his Archéologie du cinéma et mémoire du siècle, mostly an interview with Jean-Luc Godin, but at the end his fine text called JLG, Cinéaste de la vie moderne, a significant reference to Baudelaire's famous painter of modern life. I have come to think of area as a suite of scenes, vignettes instead of récits. Actually, Emmanuel Hocquart makes a shift over time from thinking of récit, that elusive French genre, as narrative prose. I'm thinking here of his Illyrian, It Nothing, where he writes about Treasure Island as a récit, and there's nothing more narrative than that novel, to a paractactic form with no chronology, no causality, montage in fact. Emmanuel Hocquart doesn't care or want to think about genre, unless, of course, he's writing a grammar. He and his sometime collaborators, for example, Juliette Valery and Alexandra Dulé, work in video, photo, text, sculpture, text, architecture, installation, etc. Take his book, Hello, Freddy, for instance, in which the first half of the book is pages of blank frames or windows with bits of narrative or dialogue in them. The second half, photographs, kind of helter-skelter on the page. You don't have to, but the movement of the narrative tells you to find the photo that goes with a particular frame with the bit of text in it. It's a fictional piece, a noir mystery with characters, but with real people in the photographs, including one or two I could swear are Emmanuel, seen from behind his hair, the trench coat, the set of his shoulders. I always relate Hello, Freddy to Godard's letter to Freddie Boyce. There is no quick association between the two besides having the same name in the title. but there are many deep and pertinent affinities between Bocard and Godard, as in the foregrounding of the address. Godard's letter begins with an address in remembrance of to Robert Flaherty and Ernst Lubitsch. I knew Lubitsch, but had to look up the other guy, Robert Flaherty, 1884 to 1951, was an American filmmaker who directed and produced the first commercially successful feature-length documentary film, Nanook of the North, 1922. I knew that title, may have even seen it way in the past in Canada. Flaherty is the one who pioneered ethnofiction, an ethnographic film. In other words, his work was a wellspring from which ethnographic film work of Jean Rouge and others began. And then Godard, who, addressing Freddie and everyone else, dear reader, as Emmanuel Hocard is wont to say, he addresses text to Claude, Olivier, Juliette, Oscarine, Norma, Paul, Alexandra, and others. His Tangier grammar to Juliette de la Roque, his daughter. But by detours points out the signs, the signatures that figure into his vast undertaking. Bonnard, Picasso, Wittgenstein, Baudelaire, to name just a few in the first pages of the unpaginated letter. Godard is looking at bringing into focus things scientifically